Assalamu alaikum. This is Maruf from Muslim Tire, and this is my brother from another brother, Sobirov.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again.
Welcome to the show. Finally, we are doing this.
Yeah, finally. It's long overdue.
Rakhmad, today, as you know, on each conversation, we'll discuss about a person's life journey, where you started and where you are today. So having said that, before we start, would you like to give a brief intro about who you are, what you do today? Then we deep dive in the memory lane.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for organizing this, Maruf. Hello, everyone. Greetings to everyone whom I know and I don't know. It's a pleasure to e-meet you virtually. This has become the norm, e-meet, right? My name is Rakhmad Sobirov. I'm originally from Uzbekistan, like Maruf, the sunny Uzbekistan. And I moved to Canada 15 years ago. But before moving to Canada, I wandered around Europe, studying my master's in Budapest, in Hungary, working in Austria and in Netherlands, at The Hague. So my background is all related to law, one way or another.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's been so far, alhamdulillah, it's been a very great journey with tons of learning and tons of challenges, unexpected, welcomed challenges. But so far so good, alhamdulillah, we are here. I manage my own law firm. We focus on immigration. Yeah.
That's good. So, as you heard, Rakhmad does immigration to Canada. So, we don't know where you are hearing this from. If you have questions about not only his life, but also immigration.
Free advice.
Yeah, free advice. Free advice.
Yeah.
Stick to the end, and inshallah will be a Q&A session. So, having said that, we're going to start from the beginning, and I think that's from the very beginning. So, one of the first questions I usually ask is that, today, who we are today, is a combination of many things, and one of the major things is that you go back to your childhood, and these are the memories, that experience that shape who you are.
Yeah.
And if I asked you, what would you remember? What would you kind of highlight from your childhood that would kind of shape who you are today?
That's a deep question, and I don't have I don't have one great answer for that. So my childhood was. Until the age of 11, 10, 11, it was very peaceful, uneventful, and very content in many ways. I grew up in Tajikistan, which, if you know, it's a neighboring country to Uzbekistan. In 1992, if you go back to the history, 1992 is right after when Soviet Union collapsed, right? Things are changing rapidly at that time, and crazy, we call it crazy 90s, right? And 1992, there's a civil war that happened in Tajikistan, and then we had to move as a family. So my journey starts with that journey of a refugee, okay? Although Uzbekistan had never ratified the refugee convention, but you are de facto refugee, right? Mm. So you're moving from one location to another. That, I think, has resonated throughout my life, because then I had no trouble moving around. I had no trouble to change my place of residence, and I had no fear, to be honest. If you've gone through that, immigrating to any other country is fine with me. So I think until now, that affects me subconsciously or consciously, that it's a challenging life to move for good reasons or for bad reasons, to move from one place to another. And I've seen it in on many levels, very disadvantaged people moving from one side to another, very rich people who are well off in their own countries, they want to move somewhere else. Mm. And so far that has been my major theme in life, because otherwise I cannot point to one single event that affected the whole spectrum of my life. So that's the big.
So you're saying in your life, one of the major events started with moving. You get comfortable with it. Now you're helping other people say.
Yes,
You know,
yes. in a way, yes,
Okay.
in a way.
Sounds good. So, some of you may not know that we go back in how many years?
You
24,
helped me
25
now at 20, 25 years, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you're a bit elder than me, but we used to study Turkish.
Yeah, at the same high school.
High school,
Yeah,
right? I remember you from that point. For me, those moments were like, for me, like I would say, one of those turning moments for me, like in life, that I was studying a normal school, then I studied this Turkish high school, was boys boarding school.
Yeah,
right?
boarding
It was
school.
a very specific environment, and just kind of shaped me who I am in a way, learning me, teaching me like English as a core, and getting lots of friends, and like yourself as well. From those moments, I can still keep in touch. What this experience, what anyway kind of shape and form, kind of, do you think kind of helped you in your work today as well?
Yeah, well, basically, when you are in boarding school, a typical, full of boys and full of interactions one way or another, right? You fight with them, you share food with them, you enter, you have a lot of adventures with them. I think until now, I have my core friends were made in those years. I think, of course, I have very dear and near friends after in other stages of my life, university life, and so on. However, that boarding school was the core, I guess, of all my crazy adventures.
I see. So I want to understand one of the things, like while you were studying, because this is one of the theme questions coming up in the episodes as well. One of the things we are trying to figure out, like for example, if I ask you today, you are an accomplished lawyer, you know what you want to do, but if you remember, go back to this like teenage years, like maybe later on, like did you have a clear idea what you want to do, or how was the transition? That's what we are trying to figure out. How you came where you are today, you know?
I think there was no clear idea. I think there's at that age when you are a teenager, you don't know what to do. There's a wind blowing in your minds all the time. You change from one side to another, and I think the best expression I can put for the word teenager is in Turkish, which stands for delikanlı. Delikanlı, right? It's teenagers. Delikanlı is basically crazy blooded, right? It's like crazy blooded times, and I didn't have any idea of who I will be or who I wanted to be. The only thing I wanted was, because my father has been in the aviation sector, he's a pilot. I've always been fascinated by aviation and aircraft.
I see.
I wanted to be a pilot. That's if I wanted to point one thing, being a pilot would be that romantic theme.
I see.
However, the life threw me to another path, and I think that sense of justice, like your refugee life. Why do you have to move from one place to another due to some political crazy ideas? That affected me and brought me to that area of law, because in my family nobody has even come closer to the area of law. When I said I was about to study law, my father asked me, "Do you want to be a policeman?" And I said, "Why? Law doesn't have to be
enforcement."
I don't want to be. Police is totally different thing. I don't. Because in that country, the association with law is usually associated with policing, right? And I said, no, I want to do international law, public international law, or something else.
I see.
Yeah.
So I remember one of the stories you mentioned that you actually didn't just give up on the being pilot. You actually went for it, but tell us the story.
The story goes. In my country back home, in all former Soviet Union countries, I think you have to be a perfect human being, physically, physiologically, and everything. You are as if to become a commercial pilot. You go through military pilot selection, right? So my eyesight, because I wear glasses, I couldn't qualify automatically. Like medical test failed. That's it.
Is it the same here as well?
No, here in the western part of the world, you can wear corrective lenses like glasses or contact lenses and continue to be a pilot.
So you could have been a pilot?
Yeah, I could have been a pilot in Canada, but not in Uzbekistan. You're not good enough to become a pilot.
So, after the high school, and you went on to study at the university, and your major was
international law.
International law. Yeah. And so, the backstory you were saying is to choosing the law was that because why did you choose the
that
law?
Sense of justice that was inserted in me, in my conscience, when we had to move from Tajikistan to Uzbekistan, right? The question, why do we have to move? I said why. I was a very much why child.
That's
I
good.
was asking a lot of why questions, and my parents would say,
because
this is so. That's it, and don't argue. So that sense of unfairness, maybe justice, why people have to suffer because of some other guy's stupid mistake. So that I think brought me to, could potentially, there was no other area that would be so related to that sense that I had. Law being the only area where you argue for justice, ask for fairness, demand procedural fairness, right? So that's how it comes to being.
So now tell us your journey. Like you're still in Uzbekistan. You're studying law.
Yeah.
And what happens in your life? Just.
Oh, okay. I spent 5 years studying international law. Every time, with every opportunity, I wanted to visit a foreign country. For example, be it a law competition in the neighboring country or in Europe. I would apply. I would do a lot of applications as a team, to represent Uzbekistan in international law competition and so on. Sometimes.
Why though? Why did you bother?
I studied different systems of different countries, right? And I said, I have to visit those countries. Internal drive. Internal drive. I have to visit. I have to see it. And plus my love in aviation, flying, traveling. The first achievement came, I think, in year 4 or 3 of my studies, where we managed to be admitted to an international humanitarian law competition, which was held in Greece, in Europe. And we were, with my other friends, teammates, we were the first Uzbek team in that competition. It's 2003. No, is it 2003? Yeah, 2003, I think.
Is it back in where you were studying?
At the university. So it was international humanitarian law. Why not? Let's represent Uzbekistan. We weren't super successful, but
at least there was a
participation of Uzbekistan in that competition. Yes.
I see. So, as you said, that's really interesting. Like that internal drive to travel, internal drive to see the other places. That always kind of. I mean, there are many people who studied at the university, right? Not everybody tried to do what you did, but somehow, whatever the reason is, as you said, because internal drive, you always wanted to see other world. Not just being content with what you have, always want to see. That's interesting. So after studies, what happens then?
Well, then the school is over, like law faculty, international law faculty is 5 years. So at the end of the year, again, I don't know what to do, right? What should I do? Oh, I have to pursue my master's degree. So I was looking for scholarship programs because my parents couldn't afford paying my foreign education outside of Uzbekistan. So I was applying to many scholarship programs, and I was successful to be awarded Soros Foundation scholarship to study at Central European University in Budapest for my master's degree. And I said, I'm leaving, bye-bye.
One of the things I also want to tell to the listeners at this point is, I guess, where we come from, Uzbekistan, right? You don't have a lot of financial resources. Like, as you mentioned, like your parents couldn't afford, you did. But somehow you figure out a way. And it wasn't easy.
Well, maybe it was Allah's gifts that
Yeah.
He showed me, because I applied to one scholarship program and I had to get it. So my sincere intentions were probably, Allah rewarded me with that. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to study.
Absolutely. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that everything we do, we know it's granted, Allah's permission.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, but just saying Allah is going to give me is not going to help.
No.
You have to do your part.
Yeah,
you have to do your part.
Exactly.
And
It's the physical reality of this world and of hereafter too. There is an action and there is a reaction.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you say, "Oh, no action, but give me scholarship,"
so it's not just dua, right? It was just actually deliberate action, plan, execution.
There's an eligibility criteria for
Exactly.
Allah's gifts too.
Exactly.
I think there's that eligibility.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is, like, to our listeners, that yes, that so no matter where you are, like in life, I know it may sound harsh. Right now we are sitting in Canada, nice and cozy, and fireplace, and everything's fine. But it was not the case for us, like 25 years ago. That's what I'm trying to say to people, And we come from, like, you remember, like the
third world country.
Yes,
right?
yes, and you know that better than anybody. Like, and we hadn't had anything. Alhamdulillah, we learned what's on but we all studied our part. And what I'm trying to say is that no matter where you are, there's a will, as they say, there's a way. Right? But that has to be genuine. It has to be moving forward. Actually, as the story goes on, it's going to get very interesting. So, the other thing you were telling me, tell me this, like, when you came to Budapest, like, what was your situation? Not only just like experience-wise, but also the financial situation. How that's what I want to know.
It was crazy. When I flew to Budapest, the mechanics work this way. You come to Budapest, they buy your tickets. The tuition is free, so they pay for your tuition. But you have to have some money in order to wage your first monthly stipend or allowance, right, to receive. So I had to borrow from my father $50. $50. I came to Budapest. The university administration greeted me at the airport. They took me to the dormitory, so I was given a room, lodging, and everything. But I had to wait almost 3 weeks to get my first allowance, and
until then
I'm on a $50 budget. So I managed it. Alhamdulillah, it was enough. I was single, no family, no kids. $50. As soon as I got my first monthly allowance from the university, my scholarship, I was able to give back the $50 that I borrowed from my father.
And move on from there.
Yeah, and move on from there. So whenever I had to travel somewhere for academically, for studying or for any other reasons, I had to save my monthly allowances from the university, from previous activity for the next activity. So I was able to do that, alhamdulillah, because otherwise there's no finance, right?
Yeah,
there's no finance. The finance
stability is all the main
exactly.
Let's see. So you studied at Budapest, and like how many years was that?
1 year program.
Was it international law?
It was a comparative constitutional law.
Okay.
So I had to compare constitutional systems of many countries, and my thesis was about executive powers of the U.S. president under the U.S. Constitution.
Okay.
At that time, you remember 2001, September 11 happens, and executive powers are ramped up. Anything can be done. U.S. troops can be sent to foreign countries for a mission without Congress's approval.
Because of the situation.
Because of the situation. So executive powers became the theme at that time. So my thesis is about that.
Okay, sounds cool. So you finish your studies in 1 year. Then
1 year.
Who's next? What's your
Again, I'm in the same situation. What am I going to do? So remember that historical context in 2004 when I graduated and I got my diploma. I came back to Uzbekistan.
Okay.
I wanted to work in Uzbekistan, but at that time, what happened? Soros Foundation was kind of a persona non grata. Wasn't welcomed in Uzbekistan.
Not any longer.
Any longer, yeah. Their office was closed. There was a revolution, change of power in Georgia. There was a revolution later on in Kyrgyzstan, the coup d'etat basically, and many countries of that region, Central Asian region, which is basically not as democratic as we want to expect.
Sure.
They thought that Soros Foundation and others was playing a role. They had a hand on this, and anybody associated with Soros Foundation, they didn't have any future in Uzbekistan, to be honest. It was a crime by association, right? And plus to that, you know that in our background of being educated in Turkish, you know, I got education for 1.5 years, right? We got educated in non-political high school, and then there were many politically affiliated high schools in Uzbekistan, but they were all called Turkish high schools.
That's true.
And again, crime by association, you don't have any career path in the government, you don't have any career path for being associated with Soros Foundation. So when I came to Uzbekistan, double doors closed in front of me, and I said, so what if I studied there?
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to their views, I don't subscribe to their philosophy, but nobody can understand me at that time. So I did my second master's degree.
Oh, I was going to study that. What was it?
It was in political science, and political science focusing on Central Asia. I did it.
Was it Uzbekistan?
No, it was partially done in Austria and in Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek.
Okay.
So I got another full scholarship, so I had to take that scholarship. And my thesis in my master's in political science was about Afghan constitution. At that time, there was an overthrow of Taliban, new Afghan government, new Afghan constitution of 2005, I think. What is it about? So my thesis was about Afghanistan and constitution of Afghanistan. Hot topic. I tried it to be in the trend at that time. So yeah, I did my master's.
Timeline-wise, like 2006?
2004 and 5. 2004 and 5. I did an internship at the OEC Secretariat in Vienna, in Austria.
Okay.
So that was a part of the journey. So Uzbekistan, Hungary, Austria, Kyrgyzstan, and then Netherlands. So we will come to Netherlands now.
So where in Netherlands? What happens there? Do you study there or do you
No, I was given a clerkship position at the International Criminal Court.
Wow.
Which was at that time very recent in The Hague. It was recently established by the Rome Statute, and I think I was the first Uzbekistani citizen in the Office of Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. I did my clerkship there, so it was, of course, there's a salary and you do your clerkship. It's basically more advanced type of internship, right? So I was on the prosecution side, so we were investigating and prosecuting crimes against humanity.
It's like international.
Genocide and other crimes under the jurisdiction of the ICC. Yeah.
So in a way, that's your dream coming true, right? Like
Law giving, delving into hardcore law, public international law, which was my passion at that time. Yeah.
I see. Okay, that was like 2005, 6.
2005 and 6, yeah.
But you're in Canada, so what's going on in between?
I always had this habit of having plan B.
Okay.
When I was doing my studies in Budapest, I came across with an opportunity to immigrate to Canada. So I speak French a little bit at that time. I was more advanced. English was fluent. And immigration to Canada was easy. I submitted my documents. By the time I ended up in the Netherlands, I received fully approved immigrant visa.
Wow.
So I had my visa in my passport. After Netherlands, I said, why don't I immigrate to Canada, go and explore? I'm single, no attachment.
So you had no friends here. You just want to go.
I had some connections. I had some friends from Uyghur friends who are from China. They said, yeah, Canada is great. Why don't you come and see for yourself? I came to Canada on the New Year's Eve of 2005, 31st of December. So my new day in Canada started in the new year in 2006. I came, landed as an immigrant, but I had my contract in Netherlands. I went back to Netherlands, finished my contract, and then permanently moved to Canada in 2006. Yeah.
So out of this place, you've lived in Budapest, you lived in Uzbekistan, Tajikistan in a short while,
Yeah.
and also Netherlands, and now in Canada. So how would you compare all this kind of? I mean, from your perspective?
I think Canada combines all the best features of all those countries in one place. So I think Canada is where I think supposed to be born, but eventually I came to Canada.
That's where you belong.
Yeah, that's where I belong, to be honest, because I'm Uzbek. Alhamdulillah, I'm Muslim, but I think I fit better as a human being, professional, and as a person to Canadian society. To be honest, because here
what makes you say so?
Many aspects. I think freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom to pursue whatever dream you want.
Absolutely.
That's what I would summarize in no political entity or no political actor or politician can tell me what to do. I can, in one way, I can waste my life or I can succeed in my life.
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Nobody will basically tell you what to do. There are opportunities, of course. There are more opportunities in Canada than in many parts of other parts of the world. I think that opportunity, freedom, is those two components that keep me in Canada. Yeah.
I mean, here's the question. Like, while we were growing up in Uzbekistan, you hear about Canada here and there, but not much. But everybody knows about US, Dream, etc. I mean, like, my question is, why not US? Like, you of course you knew that.
Yeah, I knew that. Because I didn't end up in US, I didn't study. I visited US many times, and when I visit even today, I don't feel 100% there.
Okay.
For some reason, I cannot explain. I don't know the answer to that question. But politically, socially, and individually, Canada is a better fit for me. It's not only I'm better fit for Canada, it's Canada is better fit for me.
Makes sense.
As opposed, if you have to compare with the US, then I would lean towards Canada.
I see.
Yeah.
I mean,
on many levels.
I'm just following your theme in life, right? You started your thing from moving because of war from Tajikistan to Uzbekistan. It kind of drives your whole thing in life.
Yeah.
And then that kind of drives you to do the law.
Yeah.
Where inspired by the justice.
Yeah.
You worked at The Hague to central justice, and then you came to Canada because you want to find a place for you, which is permanent, which you want to call home, I guess.
Yeah.
So we are back in 2006. You went back to finish your the contract. You're back, and I mean, how did you start? Because there may be many people who want to know, like, okay, you come to Canada, then what? Like, how do you start your life in Canada?
In Canada, you have to restart your life, professional life.
Okay.
As a lawyer, I was not permitted to practice law in Canada.
How many years did you study so far law?
Before Canada, I studied 5 years plus 1, and then plus 1 year again master's, and 1 year of practice at the international organization.
8 years.
8 years.
It's now all gone.
It's gone, and it's not. In a sense, it's not recognized for you to be practicing law in Canada, Canadian law. Okay, so you have
to let it go.
Let it
8
go.
Years.
You gotta let it go. And again, I'm at school, square one again, because either you have two choices. If you want to practice law, if you're truly committed to practice law, go to law school, one way, like a typical born and raised Canadian. Go to law school, or try to persuade Canadian authorities, like the regulating body of the legal practice, to give you some credit for your past experience. Okay? They may give you some credit for your past legal education and experience, and tell you how much, on top of that, how much you have to study. So usually what they would do in my scenario, that they would say, Rakhmad, go to law school for 2 years, instead of 3 years. And I said, what's the difference between 2 years and 3 years? There's one year difference. So I will go to law school, I will get admitted to Canadian law school like a typical Canadian, born and raised here, and finish whatever.
So you actually say, I don't care, like 2 years is just, what is the difference?
When you have studied for 8 years, 3 years seems to be that's okay. Yes.
It's nothing. But you actually end up studying 3 years. You didn't ask for credits.
I didn't ask for any credits for my past, and I said, if I want to be in Canada, I will have full exposure, start from scratch, zero everything, and start from clean slate.
So 11 years.
Yes, 3 years of study and 1 year of practice, so 12 years.
12 years. Wow.
And in 2012, I became fully licensed lawyer.
2012.
So I had to work a little bit in different fields, and then I was admitted to the law school at the University of Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I completed that, practice for, did my practice, mandatory practice for 1 year, and then took 2 lawyers exam, barrister and solicitor exam, then took the oath and became a lawyer. So that's
one of the things I remember that you also mentioned, I think in the past, is that you actually later on after the studies, you later on cut off your other passion, larger. Aviation law. What's called aviation law, isn't it?
It's an aviation law. Yes.
That's very interesting.
After law school, when I finished my law school and became a lawyer, I was hired. I started working for Bombardier Aerospace, where I would do international commercial contracts for the sale and leasing of aircraft, financing, leasing of aircraft.
So you said, you guys aren't going to get me as a pilot, I still going to be involved with the...
Exactly. I had to connect my passion in aviation, passion for aviation, and my experience in law into one place. So that would be working for an aircraft manufacturer.
I do love that because it's one of the things, as you remember we discussed as well, one of the things the Japanese speaking guy, what they say is that you have to ideally find out your areas of passion, and the more you combine them, the more powerful it becomes.
Maybe that's true.
Right. So you did that, but right now you're not doing aviation law anymore. Now it's an immigration law, and I want to understand the transition, how it went, because it's journey goes on. Right?
It's a journey goes on. Well, after working for Bombardier Aerospace for 4 years, then I got a position. I was hired at a UK-based law firm as an aviation and aerospace associate. I spent one year in the UK. I realized that I love Canada more, and plus Brexit happened in the UK. I said, I wanted to move to the UK.
Okay,
to be honest, I considered that. But it seems that at that moment we have established in Canada. I had my family, my first child was born in Canada, and then my wife is also a lawyer, so she was running immigration practice. She became an immigration lawyer, and then I said, no, I'm not staying in the UK. I'm coming back to Canada. So in 2016, I came back, started to manage this law firm that we are managing now, and I recalibrated myself to the immigration field. So immigration law combines many aspects of my previous activities. International aspect, because we are helping foreigners to come to Canada. My aviation aspect, because people are traveling. So there is still aircraft aspect, aviation aspect to that, I believe. And also my language skills. Yes. I help many foreigners and I speak those languages. So that combination of everything ended up being Sobirov's law firm. That is what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so everything is coming to in one place. I see. So right now, Sobirov's law firm is actually right now at your office in Toronto. I mean, looking back, like connecting the dots as much as you can at this point, my question would be, like, for the listeners, right? They're sitting there. I don't know where they are. We don't know. People are different stages of their life. Like,
Yeah.
what would be the advice you would give? Like, for not everybody has to be an individual, right?
Yeah.
But the question is that, as you said, I mean, the key is you do something you really care about, you're passionate about. Right now, you're putting all those things. While you were studying those things, while you were like studying 12 years of law, going all those countries, and taking all those risks, I don't think you had even the slightest idea what it might become today, right?
No, I didn't have any idea.
So
I still don't have any idea.
Exactly. So the majority of the people are like that, right? But the question is that, what would you say to yourself or to anyone in that situation? What would you say? Like, because people who may not have clarity, who may not have found their thing yet, what would be your advice?
First advice, if I'm qualified enough to give advice.
The share advice.
My thought is, if you want to, why don't you go and read one book called "Think Like a Rocket Scientist."
Okay.
Varol is the author. We can share the link.
Sure.
He says that the reality of this world, whether it's a business world or any aspect of our life, one feature you can see everywhere is uncertainty. So he brings an example of Mars mission, Mars rover mission to land in Mars, and there are so many pieces of uncertainty that you have to dance with uncertainty. Okay, dancing with uncertainty is the theme of this life, I think. Nothing is certain, and you have to learn how to dance with uncertainty. That's what I would give as a message.
Get comfortable.
Get comfortable.
With the unknown.
No, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
So that's gonna be our title of the podcast.
If you look for certainty in this life, there's no certainty in this life. That's one thing. The only certain thing in this life is death. I think other than that, everything is so uncertain that you don't have to ascertain that thing. You don't have to say, in 5 years I will be a lawyer. Maybe yes, maybe no. In 5 years I will be a second Elon Musk. Maybe yes, maybe no. There's always uncertainty. So the only certain things is death. Other than that, you feel free to experiment, to try hard, to work hard, and smart at the same time. I think that's the only message I could.
Interesting. It's very interesting. I think it's going to be the title of "Get Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable" with Rakhmad, Sobirov, right? It's going to be the title. Yeah. But I mean, having said that, I think what we noticed that there was this main drive, right? Internal drive. You always follow that as well, because sense of justice. That's why you become a lawyer instead of being an accountant. For example,
yeah, I don't like numbers, to be honest.
No, what I'm saying is that another key could be is that for people as you said, they become late. Like, it's when you are in teenage years, like if you're in teenage years, even it doesn't matter. You have to try a lot of things. You don't know in the beginning.
Exactly. You have to be exposed to many realities.
Exactly. And then you have to connect it with your internal drive, whatever that is. For some people it's justice. For some people it will be entrepreneurship. For some people it's something else, right?
Yeah.
You have to listen to that, and you have to connect, and whatever the journey you take, it should be aligned to that path. So in the end, it will work out. You have to trust, I guess.
Yeah, you have to. I would say the result doesn't depend on you. It's not the result is not your responsibility. The effort and action is your responsibility. So focus on your responsibility and leave the others' responsibilities to themselves. For example, the result is from Allah. Right? If you are a religious person, then all you have to do is your action. You are not responsible for the result. Okay. The result may be good, maybe not good, maybe what you expected or not. So action is just take care of your own responsibility. That's the main thing.
That was awesome. So one of the questions I asked towards the end of the interview is there a question I should have asked and maybe I haven't, and you would like to ask yourself and answer that? But not the immigration, because we will come to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Anything else? What do you want to do in the next stage of your life? I guess.
Yeah.
I think what I want to do, it relates to the whole theme of immigration.
Okay.
I want to change how immigration practice is conducted.
Okay.
At the moment, how does it work? A client comes, hires a lawyer fully, and lawyer represents before Canadian authorities. I want to change this dynamic.
Okay.
Why? Because in the future, you don't need a lawyer. In the future, you need legal service.
Okay.
Which means legal knowledge. Okay? You don't need a lawyer to be holding your hand.
Mm-hmm.
You need that lawyer's knowledge, experience, and guidance. That's all you need.
Okay.
So, only related to immigration, there are different areas of law where you have to have a lawyer.
Sure.
Okay? Immigration will change, and immigration will be driven by applicants themselves.
More
Empowered,
autonomously.
empowered by the knowledge that is available in the public.
Okay.
It's better if you get that knowledge from a licensed, experienced lawyer, and not somebody else who's a relative of yours who immigrated to Canada. That relative story is totally different, right? So you need a qualified expertise to be on your side.
Okay.
But you don't need a lawyer. You don't have to hire a lawyer, right? So I want to change this dynamic, old school, orthodox, very traditional way of doing things. In the next 5 years, in 5 to 10 years, I want to change that.
Are you okay to share how you're going to do that, or?
I haven't come up with a methodology right now. I'm experimenting.
That's a vision.
That's a vision. I think, for example, the online courses have become very popular these days, right? Everybody can do online course, whether he's qualified or not. It doesn't matter. You go to udemy.com, you create your course and sell it for $5. But I want certain online courses could be one thing. Some integration of technology could be another thing.
Okay.
So I don't know yet.
But that's the vision.
That's the vision. Yeah,
okay. To semi-automate the immigration process.
Yeah. Empower the applicant, not the lawyers. Okay. Empower the applicants.
Okay. So as one of the last things, tell us before we go to Q&A. Tell us where people can find you, about your company, more about your services, and we can follow you.
Yeah, we are present in many social channels, social platforms, social networks. It's Sobirovs.com is the main gateway.
Is it with W or V?
It's Sobirovs with V. Yeah. SOBIROVS.com. It's the website, and you can search my name in Google, and you will find it.
All LinkedIn.
All LinkedIn. All LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, that was the main interview.
Thank you.
And it's my pleasure. It's a pleasure. Let's see if anybody has a question on the immigration. Let me see. You have also, should we open your channel as well?
Oh,
do you see any questions?
Yeah. If any questions, I'll be happy to respond. Yeah. Yeah. I think
There's some comments.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Maybe questions will usually come later on.
So, I mean, until then, let me ask a couple of questions. So, like about a year ago, so today is like,
February 10.
February 10, like in like how many days? Like in like 37 days.
Yeah.
It's going to be 1 year, right?
Since you moved to
Since
Canada.
I moved to Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, your team helped us, and we're grateful for that. Like, our experience is quite new compared to you, like in 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
I've also lived in Uzbekistan for 20 years of my life, and moved to Denmark, and I've been to see different parts of the world. I also been to the US as well, and so far, I like Canada. I mean, because we have seen now almost 1 full year of Canada.
Yes.
We've seen.
I hope you're not disappointed.
No, not yet. Not so. No, I mean, we see the spring, we see the beautiful summers, the sun. We experience a lot. and then the autumn, beautiful colors, trees.
Yeah.
And now if you look at outside, it's snow, and we're experiencing the full snow. So this is one of the things, like, many people, they call it that Canada is cold, but the thing is, like, depending where you're coming from. Like, where I'm coming from, Denmark, like, it was, most of the time it was gray and cold. Not, I would say cold, but like windy and rain.
Yeah.
I prefer this type of weather, Canadian weather, compared to that, because you get to see the whole 4 different distinct seasons of the year, right? You get to see the beautiful summer, spring, autumn, and the winter. I'm okay with that. And what's your thought on that? Like,
I think there are many wrong beliefs about Canada around the world. One is that Canada is extremely cold.
Exactly.
That's the belief. Yes, there are cold places in Canada. However, you will probably end up in an okay place like Toronto or big cities. You will not be going to northern parts of Canada where there's no infrastructure, right?
That's true.
Most of the Canadian population lives in this, what we call the belt, very close to the US border.
That's true.
That's where the infrastructure, cities and places. So I think that's one myth that we have to address. It's not cold, it's okay. There are cold seasons, there are hot seasons. You will enjoy living in Canada. If you're very concerned about weather is okay.
Yeah.
That's my thought. So if you want to experience Canada, come to Canada and see it for yourself.
Exactly. That would be the best thing. So for people like who are listening and who tell us, like, you are an immigration lawyer, like, why should people like immigrate to Canada? Like from there. I mean, what I'm saying is, the guys, compared to other countries, what are the advantages of immigrating to Canada?
There are 2 distinct advantages. One, on a personal level, it's a welcoming country. Okay, that says everything.
We can feel it.
Yeah, it's a welcoming country. It's still out of all developed countries in the world, Canada has not experienced anti-immigrant sentiments at that level, at the high level. We have some bad apples here too, who oppose to immigration, but they should realize immigration is a blood necessary for the Canadian economy, right? Immigration is very important and critical. That's one thing. Second is Canada opens a lot of opportunities for business, doing business. Canada, with its soft diplomacy, has very good relationship with many, if not all, countries around the world. Okay, most countries in Canada, most nations in Canada, around the world, they like Canada. It's a likable country, right? And to be associated with such country will give an edge in your international business, in your dealings with other countries. If you hold a Canadian passport at the airport, there's a big difference between Canadian passport and let's say US passport, right? It's even taken.
So tell me the difference.
I will give one example related to Uzbekistan.
Okay.
United States citizens, if they want to travel to Uzbekistan, they have to get visas. Okay? Canadians, they don't need visas.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
So you can travel to Uzbekistan without visa. So America, with its own foreign policy, internal policy, and so domestic policies, they're more edgy. Edge.
Yeah,
Canada is more round shape. Okay, doesn't have edges. You can hold it. It doesn't poke you. And it's a.
I never thought of that way. Actually.
So I think in that sense, to be associated with Canada is a good thing. And I've written a recent article about that.
Cool.
Why people want to be associated with Canada.
Cool. We will check that out.
Yeah.
Also give a link. Yeah. So I mean, in terms of welcoming, because I can as an immigrant, like, we can already feel that, right? Compared to where I've been from, and here you can see that. If you come here, no one cares where you come from, etc., etc. You're already, even though you're in PR, like, you already feel it almost can. Just a matter of time. You get the passport and go on with your life.
Yes.
I see. Okay. So I think I don't see any questions yet. So what I'm gonna do then is tell us 5 tips, right, for people who wanna immigrate to Canada. What would be 5 tips or 3 tips?
Let me think of it. one tip is to be realistic
Okay.
in your expectations. Canadian immigration is a competitive immigration. Okay, it's not a lottery like U.S.
Yes.
green card lottery. It's a competitive. If you're qualified, you will get it. If you're not qualified, you will not get it. Okay. What I mean by competitive is there are millions of people who want to come to Canada, and you have to compete against them to be selected for permanent residency. But of course, that's a permanent immigration. But if you want to come to Canada to study, to get some work experience, it's not. It's also competitive, but it's doable. It's less competitive than permanent residency. So come to Canada to study. Once you have a diploma, a Canadian diploma or a Canadian work experience, you will be very competitive for permanent immigration. Okay, so if you're not competitive now, prepare yourself and then enter the immigration pathway. Second is it's a developed economy, and if you want to be doing business in Canada, be ready for a very saturated market, very loyal customer base, whom you have to win over a certain amount of time. For example, I have many Turkish clients who have achieved great success by doing business in Turkey. They think that they can do easily and achieve success easily in Canada. And unfortunately, they get disappointed because you may be super business owner and very entrepreneurial in your own jurisdiction in Turkey, for example, and come to Canada, you have to...
Competition is high.
Competition is high. People are very loyal to their own brands. You have to win their hearts and minds over time. So, which means that in developed economy, your curve is like this. You lose money for some time, and then you start earning after. It's a bell curve, right? Otherwise, don't expect to be super successful in a very short period of time. You will be successful if you be persistent, be patient, and work on your brand and on your basically market offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's let me end with
That's
two.
That's okay. Thank you very much. I think this is pretty much it. Any last words? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for organizing this. I hope it's useful. Somehow I gave useful information.
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you got to take away.
I heard it somewhere. It's not my copyright, so I heard it somewhere.
Okay. So for those who are watching, for those who are listening, we say Assalamu alaikum until we see you next time.
Next time. Yeah. Bye-bye.